in the affirmative. Vanessa Rendero? Oh, you have to unmute.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Cindy Rivera? I think that was a yes. Claudia Valle?
Here.
Okay, great. Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jericho Mealy,
Present.
Heather Francis,
I'm here, yes.
and Ann Medina.
I'm here.
Good evening. This open meeting of the Nantucket Council for Human Services is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Nantucket Council for Human Services is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Ugh. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the meeting. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. We don't have any items that officially have public comment, but after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Hallelujah. Okay. So we have established a quorum. And is that Jocelyn? Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, sorry, I'm on my nephew's iPad because we're moving and I don't even know where my computer is.
That's great. Well, we're glad you're here. Welcome. That's Jocelyn, for the record, Jocelyn. Oh my God.
Ramirez.
Ramirez, thank you. I just had a brain meltdown. Okay, so we have established a quorum, and the next item on the agenda is approval of the January and February minutes. Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval. Oh, Cindy, we can't hear you, even though you're unmuted. Does someone else want to move approval and we can keep moving it forward? Just anybody? Okay, we have somebody just needs to unmute and say move approval.
Move approval.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll take a second.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. By roll call vote, Vanessa Rendero,
Yes.
Claudia Valle,
Yes.
Jocelyn Ramirez,
Yes.
and Cindy Rivera,
Yes, can you hear me now?
and I vote yes. Mhm. Oh, yes, we can hear you now. Great. Excellent. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is an update from our Director of Human Services, Jericho. And take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Long time no see, etc. So just a quick rundown of what I've been up to since the last meeting. We've been expanding clinic operations out at the VFW to increase the throughput there. Opened up a couple of categories. So I've been doing outreach for how-tos to get into the scheduling system. We've got some more outreach activities aimed at spreading more specific information designed to address vaccine hesitancy issues. We're going to have a couple of question and answer sessions in multi-languages designed to combat misinformation about vaccination. And then I'm starting to work on doing direct outreach to businesses to facilitate time off in order to do vaccine scheduling. And then we had a couple of meetings today about improving access to the scheduling tool, or even possibly putting together a non-online analog in-person system to address underserved needs. Oh, and then I'm about to start circulating a hesitancy survey to determine kind of how big the issue is going to be in the coming months. And then figuring out how to address it. That's basically it. CHS related for the last couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. So I am going to ask the board members if they have any questions about COVID vaccine for Jericho while he's with us tonight. And why don't I just go, Vanessa, any questions?
Well, the questions actually I did a question. I made a question for Jericho about the schedule for, about the volunteer.
Oh, yeah. So
if you
Vanessa,
could give us an update, Jericho, because I think another friend is interested too in help. So
actually, yeah, no, this is perfect because one of the things that I forgot that we did since the last meeting is we hired a public health nurse. On my screen, it's below me, but Heather Francis is our new public health nurse. She's actually going to be doing a lot of the volunteer coordinating out at the VFW. I'll have to make sure you guys are talking at the end of this. But yeah, we're trying to increase outreach specifically about language interpreters, et cetera, specifically designed to have somebody on site or somebody who can be called like with sort of a real time back and forth. So it's not a sort of an outsourced translation, so that some of the local issues that you don't really know about if you're not from here or live here, you would kind of get. So we're trying to rope in some Spanish, English, Portuguese, and I think we might have a line on a Bulgarian person who volunteered as well. So I think that's one thing that everybody who is associated with the CHS can do. If we can drum up some sort of volunteer support to help out with languages out there, that would be super helpful. And then Heather, also, we have a lot of programming ideas planned for her. For example, she's going to be going down to the food pantry to do sort of a Q&A there, and she's going to be helping us put together our outreach program to sort of convince people that COVID is an important thing to get vaccinated against. But yeah, Vanessa, specifically about the scheduling thing, I'll have you and Heather start talking on that topic.
okay,
Okay,
thank you,
well-
Jericho.
No problem.
Okay, Cindy?
Jericho, what type of volunteering are you looking for specifically? What's the volunteering for?
So the volunteers set up out there, they have two basic categories, clinical and non-clinical. Clinical is anyone who can be certified, anyone who is licensed to inject, nurses, EMTs, etc. It's a pretty long list at this point. And then the non-clinical volunteers is a combination of sort of greeters, flow control, people who are doing sort of the patient relations part of it, and then hopefully sort of interpreting and translating. That would also be something that would be really awesome. I know that there's, I think, depending on the schedule, there's between 1 and 2 native speakers who may be out there at any given time, but someone in a dedicated language role is something the hospital is realizing very quickly realizing that they need.
Who would have thunk? Okay, Cindy, is that good? Is that,
Yeah, so is this for people, when you say interpreting services, are you looking for people to volunteer like free time as an on pay, or is the hospital willing to pay people to work as interpreters at the center?
So I know that they're definitely volunteer. They're obviously going to be pushing for volunteers more than not, but if you do something on sort of a semi-professional basis there, then there's definitely room for them. Like if you were covering them in a professional capacity, like there's definitely some daylight in there somewhere. But that is something I'll have to check with the hospital specifically at.
okay, so if you could let Anne know so she can send that information out to everybody, that would be
Mhm.
great. Thanks, Jericho. Anybody else have any questions for Jericho on vaccine in particular at this point? Hi, Athlon Sweeney. Claudia?
Yes. I was wondering if there is other way to make appointment for people who has no access to computer, no access to internet. And I think a lot of people came to me over the weekend because it's really hard for them to get in.
Yeah, no, that is actually something that we've spent a decent amount of time this morning with the CRRT group discussing, and then I've actually had a couple of meetings specifically about this topic with the hospital. We're definitely going to try and carve out some sort of analog enrollment process. I've been working on something along those lines for, oh God, almost like 2 months now. And we're kind of getting to the stage where we're going to be putting together a proposal for the planning board and hopefully figuring out a way to either directly kind of make sure that access, have a sort of analog enrollment thing. You would have somebody at a particular place at a particular time that you would go to physically and sign up through there, or circulate some sign up enrollment documents. We're definitely looking to try and have a scalable, like official systemic response to like the low digital communications, as well as make something that's easy to be tailored to a specific either location, group of people, or language base. So that is definitely something that we're kind of full ahead on right now. Because the eligibility goes general on April 19th, most likely whatever we have is going to be kind of, that's around when it's going to be, running fully, just because when you don't have to verify any information about a person in order to get them signed up and enrolled and registered, that makes it much simpler and easier for everybody to do things that are not the current hospital process. So we are likely, you probably won't see anything direct there. I'm going to try and kind of demo and practice and do small scale launches of a couple of other methods in case this falls through, where we would look to sort of businesses to free up their employees to go during what would normally be peak hours. So we could kind of get people signed up in mass through an employer and make sure that they have time off. That's another method we're looking at. And then Brooke, Deb, and a lot of members of the CRT have been just kind of being there, kind of proxy signing people up as well. So if we can find, if all else fails, we can try and find a quick, efficient, and scalable version of the kind of phone tree or in-person enrollment system that we have going. So yeah, we're definitely going to try and make it a lot easier to get a vaccine for people who don't fall into the normal hospital intake methods.
Yeah. So any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Cindy. And then.
So Jericho, is there any way that the hospital will make available a certain number of appointments for
I
like
mean,
drive-through event or something? Like other states I've seen that they're having people show up to get vaccinated and then they can register for the second vaccine instead of getting them registering for like prior to.
yeah.
Then they could be done.
So right now we're stuck to a pretty strict allotment system from the state. And the bottleneck is still vaccine supply. We could be doing significantly more vaccine. We could vaccinate more people than we are right now, but we don't have enough vaccine for it. So until that supply opens up, which again, everyone is pointing to April 19th as being a whole big additional influx of new production from all three of the approved vaccines. We're likely not going to see too much variation from the hospital model until vaccine supply improves. It just doesn't make enough sense to create an additional parallel distribution system when we could be doing a better job of getting people through the hospital system until we get larger supplies. Once we get larger supplies and a more varied supply, then we can absolutely be doing sort of on-site on-site roving places where we just be like, hey, do you want a vaccine? Here, good, you're done. We're also carving out kind of holes in the current VFW system that are like absolute minimum amount of information necessary to go in, get an appointment, get out, so that we can kind of address any sort of reporting concerns. And it's literally just the bare minimum amount of necessary information. So there's a lot of, variability in it, but I would not expect too big of a variation from the VFW model for a month or two at least.
So any other board questions? And then I'm going to introduce Deb, if you're willing to come on and talk about what we've been up to. Or Vanessa first.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke. Jericho, I
Mhm.
have been getting some incoming calls and text messages from the Brazilian community members, and they some of them have had some problems to reschedule their vaccination appointment through that
Mhm.
link. So that's the one thing that they have been getting this problem through that link. And another question is there any phone number where they can call? Because I called the hospital. I called the hospital, and the lady who assisted me, she said that they could not make any appointment through that phone, that line, so they should use the website. So I'm just wondering if there is any phone number. Thank you.
So no problem. I think the hospital pretty early on realized they're not set up to do incoming call volume and this, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a obtuse answer, but there's a weird kind of context to this. Originally, phone banking and everything was handled by MGB off island. And when MGB exited the initial phases of the vaccination program, a lot of the resources that NCH was using to run their call center, for example, that went away with the program. So I don't think they have an active, there's a couple of different phone lines you can call. The one that has access, the one that rings for the people who have scheduling access changes. And they really want to push everything through nchvax@partners.org, the email address, because they don't have a call center set up to handle this. So I think depending on which number you call, you can catch the person who has scheduling authority, but they don't have it set up right now for constant phone calls. So now this is there's a couple of numbers. The last one that I heard that was live was 508-825-1000, but who that goes to at this point, I do not know.
Yeah, that I've called that phone number, and I was told that they weren't be able to set up an appointment to get for the vaccination. So
yeah, this is the thing. I don't know the day-to-day phone staffing issues on that are they change. We have the meeting every day, and it's different every day. So If you have someone that has no computer access whatsoever, I think at this point, the only solution they have is to keep trying that 825-1000 or get communication in through an alternative method. Sorry.
So,
Okay, thank
yeah.
you.
So what I can tell you, and I want to introduce Deb Du Bois, who is working, has been working with me on the COVID resource response team. And we've been doing some independent volunteer outreach that I'll let her tell you a little bit about.
For the last 2 weeks, Brooke and I have been doing some work. The first week, she and I, Brooke was at the dump and I was at the Stop and Shop, handing out a card that had a QR little logo on it that allows you to get right to the sign up spot on the hospital website, almost to the right spot. You still have to scroll through. And we were handing it to everybody. We were asking people, have you been vaccinated? And if they hadn't, they got a card and they got an explanation for us. And we're told that at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, they need to jump on that. Then this weekend, we did a much better extension of that. We had additional people. Elise Norton from Family Resource Center joined us, and a couple of high school kids who were bilingual. Just Spanish speakers, though. We didn't get any volunteer who spoke Portuguese, Vanessa. But then what we did the same thing in front of the Stop and Shop. We set up a couple computers and we had phones. And as people came out, we asked them, would they like help signing up? If the people appeared to be fluent in English, we gave them the card and then suggested that they immediately go into their car and sign up, that they didn't really need our help. If they needed our help, we would help. But we were really focused on people whose language wasn't as strong or didn't have the technology. And so the window was only from 10 after 10 to 10 of 11. We probably helped around 20 people sign up using our own devices. And I think there were more people who understood how to do it. We spent the rest of the time until 12 continuing to hand out the card. This weekend, we're going to do the same thing on Saturday. So if you know people who are struggling, you can send them to the Stop and Shop at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. We've asked all the high school volunteers, we got 5 of them to come this time. And so most people have their own devices, so we can, be a good multiplier, but we're limited, like Jericho says, by how many vaccination appointments are available.
Thanks, Deb.
Sure.
And so we're going to continue to do that and hope that the number of appointments available expands and that we can be there longer hours and maybe even in a different location. We've also made a couple of recommendations on changes on the form that like the form asks for your home phone number, and most people don't have a home phone number anymore, and it requires you put in the home phone number, and that can be very confusing, even when the document's translated or the form is translated into Spanish or Portuguese, which it is accessible in both languages. But and then in addition, we have also made the recommendation, and I don't know whether we'll get anywhere with this, that they change the opening time for appointments to Sunday afternoon or evening, so that people who are working, as most people are 6 days a week this time of year, who can't be on their device at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, have a shot at getting access to these appointments. And so we'll see. I can report that we have spoken to the hospital social work department. We've talked to the healthcare access, the person responsible for healthcare access. She happened to come out the door of the Stop and Shop while we were standing there, and we got a chance to chat with her. And so we are doing as many connections to people who are at the table at the hospital, having these access conversations and representing these needs to them to the best of our ability. So, and we'll continue to push on that, and we'll continue to work around however we can, fill in the gaps of helping people get access. I wanted to chat a little bit more tonight about hesitancy. And this morning we sort of hatched a plan of doing a couple of videos that basically would be Zoom meetings, recorded Zoom meeting conversations with folks who are recognizable in the community, Spanish speaking and Portuguese speaking community in particular, and talk about concerns around the vaccine or questions about the vaccine. And we can front load some like common questions, but also, and then push that out on social media, just as a video that people can watch and learn. And it will all be in Spanish, and 100% in Spanish, 100% in Portuguese. And I would love if any of you would be willing to volunteer to participate in those meetings. Hopefully, we'll get it done in like 15 or 20 minutes. We'll give you we'll kind of preview the questions that we want, and then also ask you to bring any questions that you're hearing from the community, or concerns or rumors or fears, so that they can be discussed. And Roberto Santamaría's agreed to participate in the Spanish version of this as the health director for the town. And so I'd love to know if anybody's willing to participate, and B, if you can help us understand what the concerns are out there. So Claudia?
Yes, I would like to participate and help about that, because it is a lot of people, it's not what I captured this past week. They are not afraid. They just don't know how to get the vaccine, the appointment. And believe me, it's a lot of people who wants wants to have the vaccine. It's not like they are afraid, or the common question was, which is the vaccine that Nantucket College Hospital has been using here. So I told them that it's Moderna and Pfizer, the one that I've been hear about, and people is very comfortable with that. Okay. But they want to know if it's going to be interpreted in case they have a question in the moment, things like that. But people wants to do it. I mean, that it was my feeling this past week. Everybody just calling me to try to they give me a lot of information, I'm trying to help them, but even for myself, it was hard to get appointment,
Yes, we know. Anybody else have any? Cindy?
I actually have a follow-up question to Jericho, which is are there any conversations at the hospital regarding opening appointments on Sundays and more appointments on Saturdays instead of so many appointments throughout the week? This is thinking about everyone who works in the trades. They work Monday through Saturday, and they are not likely to take the time to go get vaccinated. It's just not going to happen.
Jericho, you're muted.
All right. I'll just start all the way over. Let's see. I know that they're expanding hours starting from this week, earlier in the day, and have some like shoulder time that we can flex into on, the weekdays, but we are in some ways limited by our contract with the VFW to a surprising degree, in fact, as to when we can operate. But I know that when it comes to things like opening the time that we open the scheduling tool, like when people go to sign up for appointments, that's shiftable, and that we are looking to move into more time, like more weekend time. And then I think we also have some time we can do nights, so after work times as well. One of the things that we're I'm trying to do to sort of bridge that gap until we're cranked up to kind of full capacity and starting to open up new hours, is trying to work directly with businesses. There's a potential initiative where we offer to like certify vaccine employees to then sort of incentivize them to give time off to employees in current hours so that they can go and get vaccinations. I'm optimistic that there's going to be more non-working hour appointments available, and I think we can probably finesse when and how it goes live so that there's more of a even playing field for everybody to get on there. As to when, I do not know as of yet.
Thanks. Any other thoughts on the board? Vanessa?
Brooke, excuse me. I'd like to help on your project. Okay, let me know, please.
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. And you and I can chat about other folks who might make sense to have on that, in that group from the Brazilian community. Yep. Cindy?
Is there, are you working with NCTV to record this video, or is this independent? And how is it going to be disseminated? Would the town put it on their social media?
We'll share anything that this group wants us to, and then I don't think we're trying to get people together to do the Zoom call. I don't know if we're going to do a second. I think that's up to that group to decide specifically how like the presentation is going to be. But yeah, we would definitely get this passed around through as many people as we possibly could on town media.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's possible that it is it gets edited by NCTV, but it could be it's just put out. The quickest way to do it is to do it and put it out and not have to go through that editing process. And so I think this is an idea that was just hatched this morning, so we haven't completely fleshed it out. But I think trying to have sort of the questions prepared in advance so that it's almost scripted, but feels more like an informal conversation, so that it's less of a lecture to the community than like an informational conversation is kind of what we were thinking about the presentation or the tone of it. And obviously those who participate in it can guide us in terms of what everybody thinks the best tone is for the community, because we certainly don't necessarily know. So yeah, Cindy.
I just want to add something to that. If that were to happen, then are we gonna provide like an email? Because usually when you put something out like that is wonderful, and it really creates, when you watch the video, then you have more questions. So where do people go after they watch the video? I just want to bring that up and leave it there for us to think.
I mean, ideally, we'd direct them to like a webinar or some kind of, because the best when somebody has questions, the best thing is for somebody who like they can sit down and talk to ask the questions, and then it's a dialogue. Everything I've read, everything I've done on these sorts of like outreach programs, dialogue is the optimal way to do it. Depending on like the volume of responses or the freedom of the time doing it, like I definitely would like to continue. Like I would like, this is a hesitancy issue, is going to be a thing that lasts for several months. So I definitely think that like we can make a conversation out of it. I think that would be optimal, to be entirely honest.
So I wonder whether, I mean, obviously, is the hospital still responding to the NCH Vax email, responding regardless of language that an email is written in?
They will handle basically any language you throw at them. If we have specific questions and I can answer them, you can email me. I'm happy to take any inquiries on this. The trouble for me is just going to be language. I only have two, unfortunately.
Yeah. So my understanding is, Cindy, that hospital email address, nchvax@partners.org, is taking questions in any language and then getting them translated, responding and translating the response back by email. So we could send people at the end of this to that email address and let the hospital, because they're the ones who have the answers, the medical answers and all those to those questions. So we might want to give them a heads up that we're going to do that. So, I mean, it's a public facing email already. So,
Well, and then also in my meeting today, the guy from the hospital I was talking to was like, yeah, I mean, they're internally aware of the amount of like the magnitude of this issue, but it might help if they got a lot of non-English language questions at NCH Vax. That would definitely that would be the kind of thing that would let them know, like direct more resources to it or make more allowances. So yeah, definitely send them to NCH Vax. If it's something short term or if it's something like specific, then you can always direct and get any questions to me, and I'll do my best to figure out any answers I can.
yeah. And generally speaking, guys, that is the place to send questions. If someone is having trouble like rescheduling their second appointment, that's another place they can email and ask where they should, what they need to do if they have to reschedule their second appointment or their appointment. So Vanessa.
Brooke, can you please type that email on the chat, please?
Do you know it?
I wasn't aware of it.
I've got it. I'll put
Thank
it in.
you.
Yeah,
No problem.
Thank you.
I think it's NCHVAX.
Yeah,
At
it's
partners.org.
this one here.
Yeah. So, and that is, the cards we're distributing with the QR code on them, that email is on that page. Like when you open that page, that email address is on there. And
It's
that
also
page,
on one of the cards. There it is.
your card, yeah.
Oh.
And that page that is opened by the QR code now has a translate button at the top right corner. That it's Google Translate. It's not ideal, but but it wasn't there 3 weeks ago. So that's an addition as well. So, Athlon, were you raising your hand or just nodding your head? Okay, great. All right. Can you formally introduce Heather to our group now?
Yeah,
Jericho?
I was like, oh God, how long has it been? We've just had Heather hanging over the corner.
Yeah.
And also, so yeah, as I mentioned, we did get a public health nurse. A public health nurse is something Roberto's wanted for a while, and that I think he's going to be incredibly helpful and useful, both in COVID times and after. So we have Heather Francis, most recently at our island home, and I will let Heather speak for herself.
Good evening, everybody. As Jericho said, my name is Heather. I am a registered nurse. I came from the island home to the town of Nantucket as the public health nurse. So right now I'm pretty active out at the vaccine clinics, and everything you guys are discussing are a lot of the problems they're having out there. And you guys are working really hard at a lot of the solutions. So I'm here to make a change and help be a voice and get some of these barriers and overcome some of these things so we all have the same equal access. But for now, I'm focused on the COVID clinics and hesitancy and disease process and stuff. And then I think as COVID quiets down a little bit, I'll move into other roles with the town. It's nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Heather. Anne, is that you that needs to, I think, thanks. There we go. Okay, thanks. It sounded like a merry-go-round in the background. All right, thanks for that. So unless there's any other questions on this topic, we can move on in the agenda. Everybody good? Okay. Next is update for the contract review committee, on the contract review committee. And I can report that the CRC has made its recommendations for the allocations of the $650,000, which is the amount that the town is budgeted for human service agencies for this year. And our committee met a lot and has allocated those resources, everything from Fairwinds to the food pantry and rental assistance to the Artist Association for their art program, art therapy program, legal services, mediation services. What am I forgetting, Jericho?
Legal service, interpreting services. Oh, what was a good one?
Yeah, I didn't bring the
I think
list with me.
you covered most of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
anyway, so
There's Fairwinds, the hospital, legal services, Martha's Vineyard, the Cape Mediation, food pantry, emergency,
Yeah.
rental assistance, fuel assistance,
Family planning.
Family planning, yeah.
Family
health
planning.
imperatives, yeah.
a safe place.
Gosnold's.
No, they,
No,
they,
not Gosnell.
Oh, they're not. That's right. Yeah,
they
changed that.
withdrew. Yeah, they
Well,
withdrew.
for this.
ASAP NAMI.
ASAP and NAMI. There we go.
So we did have to make some difficult calls in terms of the amount of funding because there's always more requests than there are dollars to allocate. And then we had the pleasant news after we'd done that work of finding out that the new marijuana tax, which is targeted, its use must be targeted toward substance abuse programs, and it generated $97,000 in revenue this last year. And we took applications for those programs and selected a joint effort from ASAP NAMI and Gosnold to start a intensive outpatient program on island that will help people transitioning from off-island inpatient residential substance abuse treatment to returning home and having ongoing support. I believe it's going to be an 11-week program, and they're planning on doing 3 cohorts and bringing clinicians. Either they're trying to hire clinicians on Nantucket, but if they're unable to hire because of, obviously we all know the housing difficulty, they're committed to having clinicians come by ferry to run the program here using telehealth as the backup if the ferries don't run. So it's primarily going to be an in-person program. Yep, Athlon.
Are they bringing them from Gosnold on the Cape?
So they are, yes. So some people are coming from Gosnold on the Cape, but they are looking to do some hiring locally to bring additional staff on island, but recognizing the challenges with housing. They're also, in lieu of getting someone here, living here, it's bringing someone for the meetings or using telehealth, but only if boats are canceled, to not have to cancel programming. So so that's the grant's going to be monitored or managed by ASAP NAMI with Gosnold as their partner. So yeah, Eflin.
One more question. How many hours
Sure.
a day?
I don't remember all the details,
Okay,
but I can
Can we-
share with you the proposal.
great. Can we find
Yeah.
out like a little more detail about the program?
Sure. I mean, I can send you guys the actual application
Great.
that they made for the program. So
Thank you.
this happened sort of very quickly. It was a much faster process than probably might have been ideal in terms of people being able to put together proposals. So you'll see the outlines of the proposal, and I believe that some of the details are sort of to be ironed out. But they only had a very short window for when we put out the request and the deadline for proposals. So yeah, so that's super exciting, and it's a whole other funding stream for mental health services that is substantial at nearly $100,000 this year. And the second cannabis outlet just opened. So I don't expect that sales will double, necessarily, or revenue will double, but it's the silver lining to the legalization of marijuana. So any questions on that? All right. Next item on the agenda, I threw in here a recap on our Parenting Through COVID forum. It feels like that was 100 years ago. I don't really have anything formal to say. I just wanted to see if any of the board members wanted to comment or about the experience, or had anything to share, if we even remember what happened. It was so long ago. So, Claudia.
Yes, I think people really like it. I mean, people has been seeing it after, but I think the translation thing, it was a little, kind of, it should be on time. Like, for example, when somebody says something, translate right away. You know what I mean? I think we miss that part.
Okay.
My thought,
Absolutely. It was challenging.
Yes. But
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, people that is not speaking English community, for the first time on Nantucket, they feel like it's something for them up there. You know what I mean? So the feeling, it was great for the people.
That makes me happy to hear that feedback. Vanessa?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, Vanessa. Yep.
Yeah. So, I think that forum was just great. I love that experience, and I do agree with Claudia. Many people love that, watch it. And then so it was kind of challenge. Was nice, a very nice experience, but it was kind of challenge. And because after when a representative of an organization was talking a little bit about their services, we should have interpreted right away. You know what I mean? So, but yes, Claudia, I totally agree. And surely we're gonna improve that. And I'd like to say that I love that experience. It was just great and very useful for the community. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Vanessa. Lots of lessons to be learned and improvements to be made, right? Yeah. Athlon.
Brooke, when people went to watch it on YouTube, could they put in the translation?
So there is a feature on YouTube where you can set for subtitles to come up automatically. It's Google Translate. Again, not ideal. We know, but any video on YouTube, there is a way to get your settings that add subtitles in your language of choice. There's another, NCTV also has the capacity to do a translation service or a subtitling service that's better than just Google Translate, but it's not built into the town contract for these types of things. So we are doing this with NCTV was part of the town contract, and that part of translating everything is not built into the contract yet. But I want to believe that we have built some momentum toward recognition that that's a service that needs to be provided for town government meetings across the board, more accessible than it is as it is now, with having to set your own settings. It's not easy. It's not easy to navigate. I did help a few people with some screenshots on how to do that after when the video posted. But it's like a 3-step process. It's really not easy to do. So we'll keep working on that. And my hope is that the software that we'd hoped to would be usable for us, that is a live subtitle service for Zoom. It turned out, if it were just a Zoom meeting without the town interface to broadcast live, we might have been able to use it. But because it was also broadcast live on YouTube and on NCTV, the plugin was not technologically, there was a conflict or something and they couldn't use it. But I do believe that post-COVID, technology is going to improve, and we are going to have better access to translation and subtitling for stuff that the town's doing on YouTube, I hope, for everyone, so that we can engage, really have folks who need that subtitling assistance can access information about what's going on in town government. And I think that this board has done a good job of communicating that need. Thank you for that. So, okay, we have 5 minutes till our hour. We did start a few minutes late, so if everybody wouldn't mind staying on a few minutes after 8 o'clock, if you're able to. Originally, Athlon and I had talked, and our intent for this agenda tonight was going to be, what's our future? What are our priorities as a board going forward? And with 7 minutes to spare, it's probably, we're not going to have a lengthy conversation about that tonight. But I don't know whether any of you had given any thought to that, any ideas we should add to the agenda for our next meeting, where we'll talk about this at greater length. Athlon?
So this has been on my mind for a long time, and we had some things to tackle first. In the Enquirer and Mirror, there's a whole section that is the, I don't know what they call it, like the legal arrests, all that information. And I think my time as a counselor on Island, I've seen how damaging it is to people. I see Heather nodding. Everybody's nodding. And there's new owners to the paper, so it might be a good time for us to talk to them. I know it's public record, but I just don't know if we should be broadcasting it.
No, we should not.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, we should not.
This has been
It's
a
terrible.
side
It
for a
really
long
kind of
time.
is.
Even if somebody has done something, in a small community, it defines them and they're haunted by it forever and ever. And I know there's part of this community that people are like, oh, people will move on to the next thing. But, we already as a community don't have a lot of privacy. And I really feel strongly that it just hurts people.
Yeah.
And I'd
Yeah.
like to try to do something as a group about asking the paper to get rid of it.
Okay, great suggestion. Let's add that for a more robust conversation on our next agenda. Claudia?
This is a very sensitive matters, but I think we need to step on it. It's about the bullying that is going around in the middle school.
Okay.
I've been hearing a lot of bad things around that is happening right now. And I think probably through you, Athelene, and also Jocelyn Ramirez, who is working in the school right now, maybe can help us to figure it out a little bit more. But it's a lot up there, a lot, and it's not good. So I'm very concerned about that, the kids. Not the high school, not the little ones, the middle school.
Okay. And maybe the question is, what is the role of Council for Human Services in communicating with the school committee on this subject? And is there room for a partnership between the school committee and CHS?
You know why? Because parents are very concerned, but again, some of them don't speak English. They don't know how to appropriate because they don't want to have the kids in problems. And also the kids don't want the parents go to the school and complain because it's going to be even bad for them. So I think it's just brutal. I mean, the stories that I've been seeing and hear is just awful. To me, it's awful.
Yeah, Athlon. Oh, you're still muted.
There we go. Claudia, I think you said bullying, correct? Yeah. I agree. And I think the middle school has had an issue. I think from what I've seen in all the work that I've done, the middle school has always been a prime area for bullying. I think I feel like it starts in the 5th and works its way up. But I also see a dual piece to this. And I think, Brooke, you saying, what is our role and trying to figure this out makes sense. But I think it's partly the addiction to social media, to devices, the lack of social skills that the kids are getting in understanding how to work through problem solving with each other, that's adding into, it's a trickle down effect to the bullying piece. Bullying has existed forever, but I think it's a perfect marriage, right? The bullying piece and the not knowing how to work through stuff and the social media piece of it. So I think we can't lose out on that piece as well.
I have a question that comes to my mind. You mentioned folks families who the parents are not English speakers. Is this a racism thing on top of bullying?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting, I think we should devote some additional time to this at our next meeting for sure. And Athlon, you and I can talk about maybe who we might invite to participate in that conversation. So it's not just us talking, but maybe someone out of the school district and as well to participate in that conversation with us. Okay, great. Well, those are 2 immediate ones that we can start working on. Any others that folks have in mind? All right, well, I'm gonna raise one, which is I have begun having some conversations with, and this is, when I talked to each of you, probably when we first talked about joining Council for Human Services in the before times. One of the things that I feel the community really needs is a centralized location for human services agencies, so that in my personal dream is that you walk through the front door of a building and nobody knows why you're walking in the building, what agency or what type of help you need or anything. And my vision is a reception desk with multilingual receptionists who work for all the agencies, who just smile and say, how can we help you be able to speak the language that the person needs, or have interpreter services available, and do sort of a shared intake of sorts for someone who comes in off the street, and that people can walk in and anonymously be there for an appointment with a different agency and no one knows why they're there. The food pantry's in the same area. So what I will tell you is there are the beginnings of a conversation about how to make that happen. And it's a multi-layered conversation. It's about bringing together a bunch of agencies that work independently of one another, are housed independently, have staffs, financial, everything independently, and beginning that conversation of how that collaboration might work. And that is starting to happen. And so I'm hoping that this board will play a role of being the liaison between the town and its role in such an effort, and all of the nonprofits and agencies and the community foundation, and that we will have a role in that process going forward. So hopefully the community foundation is organizing a meeting to talk about the concept of a community center, because there's sort of two ideas out there. There's one that looks more like physical health and wellness, like recreation, and there's one that looks more like human services and mental health. And so trying to figure out how these two tracks parallel each other, are independent, et cetera, and then who's involved in each, and how to move that forward is something that I personally am hoping this board takes an interest in, and we can talk about that more next time as well. So, Jericho, you look like you're about to say something. No, just listening. Just listening. All right, we are at 8:05 p.m. Let's see. If there's nothing else in terms of future initiatives, are there any other board comments on any other topic not on the agenda for tonight? Yeah, okay, Vanessa, then Cindy.
Okay, Brooke, do you think of providing that kind of informational forum to the community? Again, to provide that kind of information about the organizations, what the organizations do, what they offer for the community during this pandemic, things like that. Do you think of providing that kind of forum again? Or not really for now? Do you think it's not?
I don't know. Is it necessary to do it again? Is it? I don't know. But what would be different about? You mean to do it differently or better, or what would be different about
it's
what we
like is basically to provide what to provide to the community what those organizations do, what they offer for the community during this pandemic, to get them know, because I have heard that there are new people on an island coming on island, so they really don't know where to go, what to do. But we have been doing like Maria, me, we have been providing information to those families, so I'm just just think that I came across that right now, but
yeah, and you can always refer them to the Family Resource Center.
Yes,
who are doing the intakes and connecting people to resources, so that's always an option as well. Yeah, Athlon.
So just thinking about what Vanessa said, I wonder if there could be a project that we would do to kind of do little video blurbs of each agency on island separately, not in one big feed, because if you have it in one big feed, you can't puzzle piece it in as new places come up, and then have that accessible somewhere so that anybody who came on island could click on it and hear about what this person does or what this agency does, but make it more of a mosaic rather than one feed where NCTV did a whole feed of them saying what they did, because then it gets dated. Do you know what I'm saying? Where it's
Yeah, no,
personalized.
Yeah, I think that's
like
definitely something.
A modular introductions to the various human service. Yeah,
yeah.
So
I don't know where it would live.
we currently have what's the network of care site. It's supposed to be a digital equivalent of everything that Brooke wants in this physical building. It needs a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the history of how depersonalized it feels to go on a website, though it's good to be able to see it. To go on a website where there's a conglomerate of these people do domestic violence, these people do this, these people do that, and you're just reading kind of a blurb about them and where the address is, it just doesn't feel very personal. But if you had like blocks, like we're looking at, blocks with the person's face with a safe place, and you hit play and it says, hi, we're a safe place, I'm so-and-so, I'm the person you see at the front desk, you know, and again, just that introduction into the place, this is where we're located. And again, that kind of that kickback to the Family Resource Center. If you aren't sure if you need us, try the Family Resource Center. They're on this tab here that you can watch. I don't know, it just feels like it won't get dated because you can always add or subtract something out of there as an agency goes away or an agency's added.
I think it's a great idea to talk about more. Great. Okay.
Was there one more question?
Oh, did
Or
someone
idea or
else?
something?
Oh, Cindy.
I just wanted just a general comment in what you said, what we should look for moving forward. I just wanted to put out there that the pandemic is not going to last forever, hopefully, and that we can look forward to actually in-person forums. And for everything that's been talked about here, I would love if we could have it all Spanish forum, meaning whatever we're talking about, there is no interpreting, it's all Spanish. You show up, you speak Spanish, and that's all you hear. Anyone else is welcome. That's what it is. There's no filtering anything.
Yeah.
And I think we will get very important feedback from people when they're comfortable and they can speak up. So that is something I would love to see in our future.
Okay, great. 100% Spanish and Portuguese meetings, right? Or yeah,
Or like
opportunities.
like we can choose a topic, like Claudia just said, bullying, for example. That could be a topic, and you know, mothers and fathers can come and kids can come, and then you generate just people feeling comfortable, first of all, coming to those events and being in community and listening to each other, and they're validated because they can speak up in their own language, which is very difficult.
Yeah, focus groups is sort of what what comes to mind.
As a council, we can, I guess what we said at the beginning is we're like informing people. So more like informing, just like we did, but there's no filtering. So it's even better, I think, in my opinion. You really reach people at a different level.
Yep. Athlon?
So just a thought for that, and I think you're saying it's not necessarily, let me rewind. If we did that, I think it would be great to start with something that is informational somewhat, but all in primary language spoken by the audience, and then do something where you kind of have runners going to the audience and saying, what would you like future things to be here about, so that we don't try to go in telling them what they need to hear, but give some information, say who we are, say why we're doing it this way, so that we invite more people to have a voice and be open and hear what the community wants to hear from us. And then say, tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what your questions are, so that we can then create future forums that target those things for your community.
Oh, okay, great. I'm going to hold that thought and put it on the next agenda for more fleshing out, since we're over time. All right. Great. So we don't have any members of the public, so I'll skip over public comment. And then our next meeting will be Monday, May 3rd at 7 p.m. And we will pick up some of these threads that we've pulled out tonight and flesh them out in more detail and have more conversation about them. All right. So we have reached the end of our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn if someone was willing to make that motion.
I so move.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. By roll call vote. Vanessa Rendero?
Here, I'm sorry, here.
Yes, aye. Okay, Cindy?
Hi.
Hi.
Claudia?
Aye.
Athlon?
Aye.
And I say aye. All right, guys. Heather, thanks for being here tonight. Jericho, thank you. Anne, thanks again for a late night with us. And we'll see you guys in May. And in the meantime, I just want to say you are welcome to reach out to me by email, by phone. We can't have group conversations, but as chair, I am open to feedback between meetings, so feel free. Okay.
And additionally, if anyone has any questions on anything, you can also email me and I will do what I can to answer any questions.
And Vanessa, Jericho had forwarded your email to me maybe on Thursday or Friday. So I will get back in touch with you